Hey, how's it going? Wes here, welcome back to another lesson. In today's lesson, we will look at the second part of the positional words in Spanish. So in the previous lesson about positional words, we learned 9 different positional words in Spanish. And in today's lesson, to finish this topic of positional words, we will look at 10 more positional words in Spanish. So without further ado, let's get right into today's lesson. Alright, so now just as a refresher of the previous lesson, we learned that positional words are words that we use to indicate the position, location, or direction of objects or people. So for example, in English, we have on top of the table, next to the table, and behind the table. And some of the positional words that we already learned were encima de, dentro de, and delante de, and so forth. So in today's lesson, we will go over the other positional words that we have left. Alright, so let's start with the first positional word of today's lesson, which is
afuera de. Afuera de.
Which means outside of, outside of. So for example, if you want to say they are playing outside of the house, in Spanish you would say
Están jugando fuera de casa. Están jugando fuera de casa.
They are playing outside of the house, outside of. Then the next positional word, and notice here that we do not use this word de. This is one of the only words I think in the Spanish language which does not use the word de after the main word. And this is the word for between. So between in Spanish is
entre. Entre.
So for example, if you want to say the book is between the two shelves,
El libro está entre los dos estantes. El libro está entre los dos estantes.
the book is between the two shelves. So between is entre. Not entre de, but entre, without the word de. Alright, then the next positional word in Spanish, which is quite a tricky one to pronounce, is
alrededor de. Alrededor de.
Which means around in Spanish. So for example, if you want to say there is a garden around the house,
hay un jardín alrededor de la casa. Hay un jardín alrededor de la casa.
there is a garden around the house. Around. Alright, the next positional word is a través de, which means through.
A través de. A través de.
So I look through the window.
Miro a través de la ventana. Miro a través de la ventana.
So miro is the conjugation in the I form of the verb mirar, which means to look. And then a través de is through.
Miro a través de la ventana.
Alright, the next word is
Cerca de. Cerca de.
which means close to or near. So she is close to the store or she is near the store is
Ella está cerca de la tienda. Ella está cerca de la tienda.
and then of course if we talk about close to or near, we also need to talk about far from. So far from in Spanish is lejos de.
Lejos de. Lejos de.
So if you want to say instead of she is close to the store, you want to say he is far from the store, you would say él está lejos de la tienda. He is far from the store.
Él está lejos de la tienda. Él está lejos de la tienda.
Alright, now those were actually already all of the different positional words that we have in Spanish, or not all of them, but the most popular ones in Spanish. Now to finish this lesson, I actually want to go over 4 more words that relate to positional words in Spanish. And those 4 words that I want to go over are the words for here and there in Spanish. Because in English we just have here and there, but in Spanish, obviously to make it more difficult, we have 4 different words to say here and there. Alright, so let's look at the first word, which is the word here. Now, in Spanish, as we learned, we have 2 different ways of saying here, depending on which country or region you're in. In Spain, for example, you would say aquí, aquí. In most Latin American countries, you would say acá. So aquí or acá, depending on the region or country you're in.
Aquí. Aquí. Acá. Acá.
So if you want to say my pen is here, you would say mi boli está aquí.
Mi boli está aquí. Mi boli está aquí.
And the word boli, which means pen, comes from the full word, which is bolígrafo. But most people just say boli. So mi boli está aquí. This is how you would say it in Spain, for example. In most Latin American countries, you would say mi lapicera está acá. Mi lapicera está acá. So boli or bolígrafo changes into lapicera, which means the same thing. So my pen, mi boli, mi lapicera, mi pluma, which is also my pen. And we have the word acá for here.
Mi lapicera está acá. Mi lapicera está acá.
So aquí, acá, both mean here in Spanish. Then the second word, which I want to go over, and this is where it gets tricky, because in Spanish, unlike in English, we have 3 different ways of saying there. So in English, you could say, my pen is there, or the boat is there, and the distance of those 2 objects don't really matter. In Spanish, however, the distance of the object that you are talking about or describing does matter for the word that you use. So to explain myself a bit better, let's look at the first word with an example. So when you want to say there, when you can still see something, but it's just not next to you, you would use the word ahí.
Ahí. Ahí.
So for example, my phone is there, so you can still see it, but you just cannot reach it. It's not next to you.
Mi teléfono está ahí. Mi teléfono está ahí.
Then the next word for there, and now we're talking about something that's more like medium distance, is allí. So not ahí, but allí with double L, which turns into the y sound. Allí.
Allí. Allí.
So for example, instead of saying my phone is there, which is still quite close to you, you could say the car is there, which is a bit further away. So el coche está allí.
Mi coche está allí. Mi coche está allí.
Now, ahí and allí are very similar, not only in pronunciation, but also in the meaning. In some countries, one is used more than the other. They both work. There isn't really a clear rule of when to use which one. In general, the word ahí, so a-I-H-A, is used for something that is more close to you, and allí is used for referring to things that are a bit further away, so medium distance. But it really just depends on which country you're in, and honestly, if you're talking very fast, most people probably won't even hear the difference between ahí and allí. So ahí or allí, there, for close or medium distance. And then the last word for there in Spanish, but this time there when we refer to something that's far away. So for example, those mountains over there, or that car over there in the distance. The last word for there in Spanish, when we talk about objects that are far away, is allá.
Allá. Allá.
So not ahí, not allí, but allá. I know I keep repeating myself, I'm sorry, but it's just very important to get the pronunciation right. Allá. Allá. So for example, my parents live there. So you refer to, for example, another country. So my parents live in England, for example. My parents live there.
Mis padres viven allá. Mis padres viven allá.
So we have ahí for something that's relatively close to us. We have allí for something that's like medium distance. And allá for something that's far away. So ahí, allí, and allá. And of course, aquí and acá for the word here in English. Alright, so that's it for today's lesson, the positional words, part 2 out of 2. That's it for the positional words in Spanish. I hope that this lesson was helpful. Now with these positional words, what you want to do is, or at least what I recommend you to do, is to download the reference sheet of today's lesson to go over all of the different positional words one more time, not only from this lesson, but also from the previous lesson, and to practice a little bit with these different positional words to make sure that you really understand them, to add them to your own vocabulary so that you can start using them when you start speaking in Spanish. Alright, that's it for today's lesson. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to download the reference sheet of today's lesson, in which I will also include the previous lesson. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next lesson. Adios.